I want to make a Zoom drinking game. Every time you see one of the mistakes from my last video, you get to take a drink. Looking up someone's nose, drink. Can see their ceiling fan but not their face, drink. Can count the pimples on their nose because they are so close to the camera, drink. Unfortunately, if I actually played this game, I'd be drunk 5 minutes into every meeting. You don't want to be that guy or gal on the web call. But those tips aren't the only help that I've got for you. Stay tuned to learn more distinctions for doing meetings on webcam.
Distinctions for life, helping you get what you really want in life with small changes that make a big difference.
I'm Ron Davis, and I'm all about helping ambitious people go from being wannabe entrepreneurs to having a profitable and sustainable business. I do this by giving you the mental tools to understand your business and what you need to do next to make it happen. These videos are one way that I do that. Another is a short weekly email I send with a few useful tools, resources, and topics. If that sounds like something that you'd like to get your hands on, go to distinctionsforlife.tv to sign up. I've had a number of people tell me how much my How to Look Good on Webcam video distinctions helped them. So I decided to do another video with even more distinctions related to our new world of online meetings. First and foremost is to treat the meeting like a real-world, in-person event. I got this distinction from an excellent video from Toastmasters International, and I will put a link in the description below. Lots of the problems we see on meetings would disappear if people just started thinking about it this way. The first and obvious distinction is to dress like you would for a real in-person meeting. Antonio of Real Man Real Style did an excellent video about the psychology of dress and how it affects your work. Again, I will put a link in the description. In that video, he pointed out that dressed up means different things to different people and contexts. He was talking about the psychological impact on you of dressing better. I'm talking about the social impact of your appearance on the people in your call. But, like Antonio's point, what dressed up means differs based on your organization. I spent a couple of decades in the tech world, and people wore t-shirts and shorts to work all the time. But if you work in a bank, that is probably not what you wear to meetings. Another aspect of treating an online meeting like a real-world one is to excuse yourself. Newbies have this tendency to think that no one is paying attention to them and they will just turn off their video if they need to go to the bathroom or blow their nose. The first problem with this is just because your video is off does not mean your audio is. I know of at least one person who turned off video and then went to the bathroom, all while broadcasting all their sound effects to the meeting. Just like in a real meeting, you want to tell people that you are going AFK or away from keyboard, because people assume that you are still there and listening. Now you may be thinking, Ron, if I'm in a call with 50 people, I don't need to tell them that I need to leave the room. That's true. Just like if you were in an in-person meeting with 50 people, you wouldn't announce to the whole room that you needed to pee. Use the same judgment on a conference call. Before going to the next tip on looking better, let me give you a distinction about the world that we live in. This isn't specific to remote working or just to the quarantine. Do you sing in the shower? Dance in your living room when no one is around? Feel comfortable walking around your house in your underwear? Of course you do. That's how home is supposed to make you feel. Now, if I asked you, do you sing at work? Or to dance on stage in front of hundreds or thousands of people? For most of us, you would give me a terrifying negative. The problem is now, we can be surrounded by the feelings of home and be in front of hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people. You see this manifest on social media when people post things from their bathroom that you know they wouldn't do in public. It's because we don't think the same way in private that we do in public. But those two things now overlap like they never have before. We can no longer judge where is private by how many people are there. What I'm talking about here is what goes on in your head and in our feelings. We can be in private, feel safe, comfortable, or sexy, but in reality, we are in public. We may know rationally that people are watching or will be able to watch later, but the feelings in our head that we use to judge if we should actually do something are based now on that private context. We all need to work on making that context switch part of our process up here. Okay, enough heavy stuff. Let's talk about googly eyes. Tip number 2 is to look at your camera and not your screen. Especially when you are talking, even a little to one side makes a big difference and is noticeable. A trick that some people use is to stick googly eyes on their webcam. Then it actually has eyes to look at. There are a couple of reasons that you need to look at your screen. One is to look at your audience, and the other is to look at yourself. Let's talk about looking at ourselves first. Let's admit it, we all do it. We're at least as concerned about how we look as we are to everybody else on the call. But it isn't all narcissism. We need to look some. It helps us make sure that we are in the right place on other people's screens. I recently heard a new term from video streaming pros, the confidence monitor. It is a screen that they mount next to the camera to show what is going out on live streams. Their tip was to mount it under the camera because their research has shown that looking down is less distracting than looking to the left or looking to the right or looking up. Next tip is to use chat correctly. One big way that online meetings are different is that they have a chat. Chat is a text side channel that can be used during a meeting, and they can be really powerful if used correctly. Its advantages may make you wish that you had it in face-to-face meetings. Here are 3 great uses for chat. 1, it allows people to ask questions without interrupting the speaker. It is a great place to put URLs and related information rather than expecting people to write stuff down. 3, it is a more permanent record of these things, and it can be saved and looked at later, kind of like group notes. But it can be used wrongly. Here's a few things not to do. Don't use it too much. Flooding the chat with long comments or lots of semi-related URLs makes it useless. 2, don't send messages to an individual that you meant to send to everyone, and vice versa. Make sure that you understand where your chat message is actually going. You see, many of these chat programs allow you to send messages to everyone and also to send messages to just one person. Make sure that you have the right one selected when you hit send. 3, don't put all of your focus on the chat and lose track of the meeting. If you are the speaker, break to check the chat periodically. Don't try to keep up with it while speaking. If you are in an audience, don't watch the chat all the time and lose track of what the speaker is doing. All right, the next tip is for when you are the speaker to a group. You know you can stand up. We tend to default to our technology's default. And since many people are using laptops, they default to putting it on their laps while sitting in a chair. But as we mentioned in the previous video, you can and probably should put it on a table and get the camera at eye level. Well, the same goes for you. You don't have to default to sitting down. If you are giving a talk to a group, you can stand up just like you would in an in-person meeting. Just adjust your camera angle and make sure your sound works. If you're giving a speech to a group on webcam, here's another tip for you. Ask for audience feedback in a way that works in thumbnail and on mute. Say in a real-world meeting, you might ask something like, "Everyone who's done that, say aye." Well, that's not going to work on Zoom call when everyone is muted. Instead, pick something easy for people to do that will show up on your and everyone else's thumbnail view. For instance, you could say something like, "Everyone who's done that, wave at the camera." If you want people to say something that would be shared to the whole group, have them do it in chat instead. For instance, everyone type in their favorite flavor of ice cream to the chat. This gets that audience engagement of an in-person meeting in a way that works for virtual meetings. To recap, 1, treat virtual meetings like in-person meetings. When speaking, look at the camera and not at your screen. Use chat appropriately. You can stand up when speaking. Ask for audience feedback in a way that works in thumbnails and on mute. Question of the day: what are your tips for Zoom meetings? Leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching today. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. This channel is all about helping you get what you really want in life with small changes that make a big difference. Until next time, I'm Ron Davis. The next tip is for when you are the speaker The next tip is for when you are... That sentence is screwed up, man. This gets that audience engagement of an in-person meeting in a way that works for virtual meetings.